Everybody, Jennifer here. I am ready to walk you through a new project. Today we're going to make this scarf. I call it the Sexy Singles Scarf because it uses mostly single crochet with a little bit of front post and back post ribbing. So you'll need to do a couple of color changes on both ends of the scarf. It's not too difficult, and it's got this nice ribbed bottom instead of having like a fringe or something. You will need 2 colors of Lionbrand Hometown yarn. This is a chunky yarn. I think it's a 6. Yep, it's a 6. And I'm doing it, what's the color of this? This is Montpelier Peacock, and then I'm also doing it in this color here called Portland Wine. But you can use whichever 2 colors you want, or if you just want to do it one color and not do the color changes, you can do that too. But you'll also need a size N crochet hook, which is a 10 millimeter. And to get started, set up here. Okay, I'm going to get rid of that. And with your main color, which for me, it's this Montpelier Peacock color, tie your little slip knot. Okay. And then you're going to chain 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. There's our chain. Okay. And now in the 3rd chain from hook, 1, 2, 3, we're going to double crochet. And then we're going to double crochet across the whole row. You want to be careful with this Hometown yarn because it does tend to split pretty easily. But I like that it comes in a lot of different colors, and here recently it was on a pretty good sale through Walmart. I don't know if it still is, but so I bought quite a bit of it. All right, one more stitch. Here we go. Okay, so we've done our double crochet row, and this is, not from the factory. I hate those. This is actually, I think, the first one I found in this bunch that I bought. And I would normally use a magic knot to tie that back together. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'll show you a neat trick. If you want to do the magic knot to change colors, but you don't know how to get that color change where you want it, what you want to do is when you get to the end of the row, pinch the yarn right at the end of that. It's because you want the new knot to be about here so that when you chain up for the next row, your color change is going to be right there. So pull it out, 1 or 2 stitches. I'm going to go ahead and do 2. Just give yourself enough room. And okay, and then go ahead and cut your yarn right there. And then I'm going to take our new yarn. In this case, we're not changing color. We're just replacing that, since there was a factory knot and we needed a better knot that will hold. So then I do my magic knot. I'm not really going to teach it to you now because I've done it in a couple videos. You can practice it. It's kind of tricky to learn. Then I do my magic knot. Oh, come on, don't get stuck. Sometimes it gets, there we go. Sometimes it'll get a little stuck. Then we can trim that. Throw that away. And then we've got our magic knot. Knots get a little bulky with this thicker yarn. So sometimes you can end up with the knots a little bit visible on the end. And we're going to redo those 2 stitches we pulled out. And then our knot will be right where we want it. Get in there. Okay. I can feel the knot coming up. And it's right there. Okay. So next, what we want to do is we're going to chain 2. Okay. And then, so this, because this chain 2 is going to count as a stitch, and our last stitch and our first and our last stitch are just going to be double crochets. So that first stitch is just a double crochet, and we leave it alone because this, we've already basically double crocheted with this chain 2. So this is the first stitch we're going to work into, and we're going to do a front post double crochet, and a back post. So we find our next post, and we're going to go through the back of it instead of the front. And then front post. We're going to alternate front post and back post across the row. And so we should end up with a back post here, and then, or I mean here, back post, and then you're going to do a double crochet in that turning chain. So we just ended with the front post, so we're going to do back post. And then front post. And back post. Front post. Back post. post. Oh, it keeps getting stuck on something back here. There we go. And then front post. And then back post. And then we're there at our very last one. And we're just going to double crochet right in there. Okay. So there's our first row of the ribbing, and my tablet shut down. And that's what my pattern's on, so I'll pull it back up. Okay. This pattern, by the way, is not on Etsy yet, but it will be soon, so it might even be up by the time I get this video up, so it could be there, it might not, but I will have the downloadable pattern available pretty soon. Okay. All right, so then you're going to repeat that front post, back post row. You're going to repeat it 3 times. So basically you'll have 4 rows of this ribbing. So you do it 3 more times, just exactly how we did it before. You chain your 2, which counts as the first stitch. It counts as a double crochet here. So then you start with a front post. And then a back post. And it gets easier to tell which stitch if you have to set this down for a minute and go do something and you go, oh, I don't remember if I left off on front or back. Well, it's already started taking shape. So all of these ones, all these stitches that are pushed forward, these are your front post stitches. They were actually the back post stitches on the previous row. But now you're going to do front. So all the ones that are pushed forward you do front post into. All the ones pushed back, you do back post. And so that's pretty simple there. So do your ribbing. You need 4 rows total, or 3 additional rows on top of what you've already done. And I will meet you back here when you've got that done. All right, I'm back. You'll notice that your ribbing should be a little thicker than mine because I just did the 2 rows. Because I'm not going to make this a whole scarf. I'm just demonstrating how to do it. I already made my full scarf here, and I don't want to do it all again. So when you get done with your ribbing, then we're going to move on to our moss stitch. So what you want to do for that, this is mostly single crochet, and for single crochet we usually chain 1, but for this stitch you're going to chain 2, and that 2 counts as a single crochet and a chain 1. And so it does count as the first stitch, so you want to skip this first one and work into this one with a single crochet. And then you're going to chain 1. And then you're going to skip 1. So we'll skip that one and we'll go into here. Single crochet, chain 1. Skip this one, work into here. Single crochet, chain 1. I think I did a lesson on moss stitch before. I think it's in my videos. So this shouldn't be anything new if you've gone through that. So, and then chain 1, skip 1, single crochet, chain 1, and we've skipped. Okay, chain 1. Okay, now we're going to skip this one, and we're going to work into the turning chain right here. and then chain 2. Turn, and now we're just going to be working into those chain 1 spaces. So this is our first one, single crochet, chain 1. Next space, single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, and on. But we will be doing a color change soon. Okay, yeah, so we basically work this row and then we're going to change color at the end of this row. And I did a video on changing color, so hopefully you have a decent idea of the method that you prefer and you're ready to go. The method I'm going to use, and this is a method you can use too, I'm using it because I don't want to cut this yarn. Since I'm not making a full scarf, I want to be able to pull this out when I'm done with this video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to redo that last stitch. And I'm going to do it again, except this time I'm going to finish my stitch with my new color. And I'm going to pull through with that color. And then I'm going to chain 2. And I'm going to turn. You can do this color change. You would, of course, cut the old yarn and you would weave these in or crochet over the tails or whatever. But I'm not going to cut mine just because I'm going to be pulling this back out. But obviously, if you want a scarf that you can actually use, you're going to want to cut yours. And so then we've chained 2 with our new color, and we're going to go into that first chain space with a single crochet and a chain 1. Here's our next one, single crochet, chain 1. You're going to do 2 rows of this color, then switch back to the old color for 2 rows, and then 2 rows again of this color. And then when you switch back to this one, you'll go for a while before you have to change again. Chain 1. I hope you are getting this done without too much trouble. I hope it's not too complicated. And then chain 2 and turn. And then it's just the same repeat. So I'm going to go ahead and work this row, and then we'll do our color change and go from there. Alright, I'm at the end of the row, and I'm just about to finish it up. I'm going to go into that turning chain, but I'm going to change color, so I'm going to finish it off with, just this color here, this yarn tail. I'm just going to use it. I'm going to chain 2 with the new color and turn. And then it's the same thing, just with a different color. So, and this is the same thing for the whole scarf until you get all the way to the ribbing at the end. last one. Chain 2. You'll notice that it will look like the ribbing's a little bit wider. And that might be, does it look like that on this one? Yeah, a little bit. I think it's just because the stitch maybe pulls in a little bit more. So it's okay. I think it looks nice because it's because it replaces your fringe. You know, you're having something. I mean, it kind of makes a nice, I don't know, decoration there at the end. I really like the shininess of this yarn. It's got a very good sheen to it. And it really does come in a lot of colors, so. All right, we're coming up on that next color change. Last stitch here. I'm going to finish it up with my purple tail. And then we're going to chain 2. And turn. Single crochet in that first space. And chain 1. Okay, so I think I've gotten you to where you can do this a little more on your own. So what you're going to do now, get to the end of this row, do one more row with this color, then switch back to your main color, and then you're going to work, how long does it say to work it on my pattern? Let me look. Okay. All right, so you're going to work with your main color after you switch. You're going to work with your main color until the whole scarf measures 60 inches. So I don't know if I mentioned this, but you're going to need, I hope I mentioned it. Shoot, I might not have. But you're going to need 3 balls of your main color and 1 ball of your secondary color. I will try to sneak that in to the description somewhere just so you know how much you need, since I don't think I told you early on. So yeah, 60 inches is the number to go for. And okay, so then you do this row. Then you're going to switch your color. Then you're going to go 60 inches. Let's make sure you have a tape measure handy. 60 inches or, oh shoot, I was talking. Did I forget? I think I forgot to chain here on the previous row because there's no chain space, but it's between the 2 stitches. But that's okay. I'm going to work into it anyway. And it shouldn't really matter too much. So measure your 60 inches or your preferred length. And I will come back and work the ribbing with you, but you don't really need me to because, well, the color changes. When you get to 60 inches, you're going to then repeat the color changes. I don't think I need to walk you through it because you'll be on the main color here. When you reach 60 inches, then you will switch to this, your secondary color for 2 rows, then your main color for 2 rows, then your secondary color for 2 rows. And then you'll do 2 rows again of the main color, and then you'll do your ribbing. So it's we've already gone through it. You're just repeating it, sort of in reverse though, because we started with 2 rows of the main color, but this time we're gonna go into yeah, you know what I mean. So when you get to the end, then we'll do this color change again. Secondary color, secondary, main, then the ribbing. And so I will leave you to that. Get to 60 inches, do your color changes, and then I'll meet you back up here to do the ribbing. So hopefully that's not too complicated. I'm leaving you with quite a bit here. But if you have any questions, you could feel free to ask. And I am on pretty often, so I will see any questions. So I'll meet you back up here for the ribbing. All right, I'm back. So you should be, I'll show you on the big scarf. So you should have this part done, and then all the way down to here. So then you should have done your color changes, and then 2 rows of the moss stitch with your main color, and so you should be here stopped, right, waiting for me. Okay, and so I've got my little scarf here, and we're going to do our ribbing. And so when we get there, we're going to chain 2 and we're going to turn, and just like we did before, we're going to skip this first stitch and we're going to double crochet into this one, except now you have to be careful because we're not working into spaces anymore. Now we're working into the tops of the stitches, so you gotta make sure you get into those and not into that space. Double crochet, and we're doing that all the way across, double crochets. Because it's real easy to just go into that space. And I suppose you could, I guess. You know what, I'm going to do it. Because I don't think it'll really affect anything. And then, of course, don't skip this actual stitch here. So if you work into your spaces and all your stitches, you'll be fine. But you absolutely could work into that. It's a little trickier to get in there. So, yeah, just go and work in the space. It's not going to hurt anything. And it's, you know what, honestly, that's probably what I did in the full scarf. I don't remember. Maybe I'll make a pattern note before I publish the pattern and mention that. Okay, so you work through all of your chain spaces and stitches. And then, okay, just about to the end here. We're working in our last space. And then we're going to work, I think, yeah, work into the stitch. And then into that chain space. And then chain 2. And we're going to turn. Okay, so we skip this first one. And we're going to front post. And then back post. Oh, there we go. And then front post, and back post. And you'll do 4 rows of this ribbing like you did at the beginning. Okay, did I go into the same? Hang on. Stitch was that? Oh, that was that one. Okay. Sometimes when you're filming, I will watch myself through the camera, and it is a little different sometimes to do that. So, there we go. Alright, so we've got our front post, then I believe we have one more back post right here. And then a double crochet in the turning chain. Then chain 2 and turn. And then now it's set up for you, so you can see your which ones are front and which ones are back easily. So this is our first front post, and back post, and front post, back post. Okay, and then our last back post. And then in the turning chain. Now, what you're going to do, you're going to do 2 more rows of this ribbing, and then you're going to tie it off, and then you can weave in your ends if you still have any, depending on how you changed color. And then you will have a finished scarf. So I hope that was a doable project for you, and that you have a finished wearable now. And I hope you've had a good time. I know I have, and I hope to see you back here for the next lesson. Have a good day.